To get our BeeBrain to work on our Spektrum Radio, we got to create a new model for it. To get our BeeBrain to work on our Spektrum Radio, we got to create a new model for it. So to do that, click, go down to System Setup, yes, Model Select, New Model, Create. Okay, model type, it's quad. Yes. Model name, we'll call it a whoop. And back. Aircraft type, perfect. F mode. Now, I don't like it on this switch here. I like it on the D switch. So I'm going to come from B and change it to D. Now it works on D. Very good. And we want to make sure that our frame rate is 22 milliseconds. Good. And now we can do the bind. Now, you don't want it right next to it when you bind it. To bind it, we need to plug the, where's our power? Here it is. Plug our power in. And we have to hit the little button right here. This is used to set the, flash the firmware and to set bind. So we're going to press it lightly with one click. And if you got it, you have that fast blinking red light right there. Hard to see, but there's a fast blinking red light there. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it away from me, because if it's too close it won't bind. Let's try the binding. There's two ways to bind it. We can bind it right here. Let's try that first. And bind.
Binding. DSMX 22 milliseconds.
Bind. Perfect. So now that we have this set up, let's see. Let's arm and disarm works. Different modes. Perfect. And if I fire it up and kill it, works great. Okay, let's get this back on BetaFlight and do some more work on this. Okay, we have to fix pitch and roll, these two controls which are wrong. So to do that, I'm going to come here to Control Setup, change travel to reverse. And that would be roll, switch, and yaw, switch. And that's it. Let's go back and make sure it's right in BetaFlight. We're going to program our Tiny Whoop right now in BetaFlight, and to do that we need three things. The Tiny Whoop, a battery, and the transmitter radio. Start with the USB cable, find the port on the bottom, make sure you got the cable oriented right, and plug it in. This is a good reason why we don't want to have the battery on there right now. You'll see the lights came on, and if you look at the screen, it moves with the Tiny Whoop. Oh, the next thing we want to do is calibrate this. Now it's kind of hard on this because we can't lay it flat on a surface. So I hold it real tight, hold my breath, and press the calibrate button. Okay, that makes it flat. Now that we've done that, just set it aside while it's still working. And I have programmed this already. In the Ports tab, the only thing we need to do is for UR2, we need to select this. That is our radio receiver, and that's a serial device, and that needs to be set. Don't touch these. These are for communications through USB for BetaFlight. In the next, we go to Configuration tab. We want X, Quad X, and we are using brushed motors, very important. And this is all pretty much what you should have. It should already be set for you. I have this set for 8 kilohertz and 8 kilohertz. And by the way, you'll notice down here my CPU load. Ooh, that is not good. That's way too high. Let's go and turn that down. Let's try 4 and 4. Save and reboot. disconnect, connect. Oh, we have to plug and unplug sometimes to do this. That CPU load was much too high. Let's reconnect. And that's a lot better, 14 to 15%. Right now I'm at 4 and 4, and that's still a little high. So I think I'm going to take my PID loop and maybe knock it down a little. Let's try that. Save and reboot. Unplug and replug. I find I have to do that more times than not. Connect, and let's go back to configuration. Yeah, we want to be about 10%, so I'm okay with that. And the accelerometer I have on, these others are not part of the program. Also, we want to set, in my case, Spektrum satellite. If you were on another protocol, you would pick it there. And also, I'm using a DX6, which is pretty fast, so I am on this protocol as opposed to the slower protocol. And I also have my beepers. Well, there are no beepers on this, or other features. Other features are turned on. I like anti-gravity. I like the dynamic filters. I think it's important. And I like air mode. And transponder, we don't have a race transponder, so I'm going to turn that off. We don't use these, so I'm going to leave those off. And as far as these, you can actually turn all of these off because we don't have a beeper. There's no beeper on this model, so none of this beeper configurations matters. You can turn them all off or leave them alone. They really have no effect because we have no way of making a sound on this, which is the one thing I don't really care for about this. I really do like a beeper. And we're going to save and reboot that. Disconnect. Yeah, I know this is the tedious part. And reconnect. Oh, by the way, before we reconnect, I'm going to be using my radio soon, so I'm going to turn that on because I'm going to need that for the radios tab in a few minutes. Plug that back in, reconnect, and go back to configuration. Just verify that everything is really all set there. Oh, I like this arming. If it's like more than 25 degrees off, it won't arm. It has to be flat. That's what that's about. Failsafe. If you don't like that, you can turn it off and just be aware. Oh, look at that. It went all back on again. Like I said, it doesn't matter. Power, well, in our case, we're using these one cells, which are 3.8 volt. So capacity is, it says 250 on this one. So I'm going to set this for 250 because that's what it says on this. 250 milliamps. And I'll just save that. Failsafe, leave these alone. That's fine as it is. PID tuning, I'm taking the default pretty much. Actually, the default is what came with the drivers for this. So you leave that alone and you'll have a better experience. I don't recommend you touch that. For the receiver, now I got my radio, and let's see if I make sure I got my throws right. Here's my yaw and my pitch and my roll. Now, one thing you might want to double check here is, oh, by the way, make sure you want to set this properly too, because this is in my case set for Spektrum. And my RSSI is on aux 5 in this case, and I'll get that in my on-screen display. And you notice this thing is kind of changing a little bit. Oh, that's because this is aux 5. This is my RSSI, so that will change. So that's normal. But one thing you might want to check is, check that you want to be between 1000 and 2000. That's a little low. And to do that, at least on Spektrum, I can go into, I know you can't see this, control setup, and I'm going to go to, let's see, I'm going to start with roll. And when I'm there, I got set at 100 and 100. And when I go to roll, I see that's 104. That's a little high. So I'm going to turn that until I get it down to under 1,000. And over here, I'm going to set the trim. Okay, 2,000 is perfect. And the next one we have is pitch. Oh, I just played with that. Okay. And the next number I have is pitch. And pitches, that's a little low. Let's go and that's fine. I'm going to give it over 2,000. 101. I'm going to try and get that below 1,000. Okay, that's good. Then the next control is yaw. And let's see. 1,000 is good. That's a little low. Yeah, I'm running out of time. I know. So let's bring that up to 202 is good. And yes, I know it's been over 2 minutes. And we've got our throttle. Let's go to throttle. Throttle, that's a little low. Let's go. There we go. And low. Where's the low number? Little high. Let's get that below 1,000. Okay. And I don't know if you can see that. There's my new numbers. And I'll set that up. Now I got the rates here all set up between 1,500 in the center, 1,000 on the low side, 2,000 on the high side. When I go to modes, that's my switch. Oops. Sorry. That's my switch right here. At the top, I have it set for horizon mode. In the middle, I have it set for angle mode. And the bottom I have for acro mode. But I'm going to change that because I like that to be horizon because that's flat. So I'm going to put that in there. I like that to be angle mode. It says horizon, so I'm going to change that in a minute. And I like that, which is nothing, to be acro mode. So now when I click that, there's my horizon mode. That's my horizon mode. I'm going to change those voices because that's a radio function. Also, this is the arm. And it's not going to arm right now because there's no battery in it. But you can see arming is correct there. And that's really all we have here. All these other functions we can't do anything about. So we'll just save that. And as far as the rest of these, well, motors, I don't think that really matters on this. I mean, I can turn them on here. Let's see what happens. I've never done this on a Tiny Whoop. Let's see what happens. I'm going to put the battery on because I believe you need the battery to run it. Let's see what happens. Is there enough power from the USB? No. All right. So I'm going to go connect this and see if I can do this with brush motors. This is a first for me. I've actually never tried this before. So there's the battery. And I'm going to turn that on. And it works. You could actually check each motor individually to see if you've got it right. Or check them all. Whoa. Very cool. Okay, so that's good. And then we have our OSD display. If you want the logo on, you can leave it on. I like to turn it off. Now, I think we had a new function here. Let me see here. I have it set for NTSC, and I like Imperial, and I like my second timer on. And by the way, this is where you turn things on. There's my RSSI right there. That's that value. And you see when you hover over, the names now come up. That's a new feature, and I like that. That's in this new version of BetaFlight 10.4. I don't believe we had that before. And we can see the different timers here. And here's the different power and the voltage warning that I like. And I like the disarmed. It goes away when it's armed. Time remaining. That's this one right now. And of course, you can turn these other things on, but I really don't think they're very useful. When you're racing, you might like to have the craft name. If not, you could just flick it off. But I'm going to leave mine on. Okay, and that's that. As far as the rest of it, if you really care to, you can come over here into the CLI, and you could even find out things like, you know, what's different about, whoops, DIFF, what's different about this configuration from original, diff, dump, that's all the settings, and it's a good idea to make a copy of this. One other thing that you could try, and I'm going to come back over here, I want to exit this, exit, and it's going to reboot. See, it's rebooting. There we go. Whoop, reconnect. Of course, it's not going to, because I went to that. Another thing that you could do is if you play with this much, and I'm going to take the battery off, don't need it now, is under here, once you get it all set up, hit the backup button. And it'll ask you, where do you want to back it up to? In my case, I would put it in my Tiny Whoop folder, and I'm going to say, save the backup file. So we have all set this up. This is ready to fly, and just disconnect, pull your cable, go have some fun. Now that everything is all set, it's time to put the props on, and there's an order to the props. We want to make sure the props spin inward and inward. So let's start with the first one. Get that little nub on there. Just push it down. Now this one is also facing inwards. It's the mirror of that. We'll get that on this spindle. And they just push down. Again, this one is facing this way, towards the center. Very nice. And the last one, again, is facing inward again. And there we go. And as you can see, the blades are facing each other. This is all done. So, and another thing I like to do is just spin them out. Make sure there's no friction. That's perfect. This is going to be a great flyer. Looks like in all of our excitement, we got some of our wires pushed out. So let's just shove those back into place. Just be careful you don't put anything sharp in there to pull those wires through, because you could easily break something. Just pull those wires through and just tuck them under so they don't pop out in a crash. If you can hear, there's a raging thunderstorm outside, so it's perfect Tiny Whoop weather in Florida. Well, there she is. There's my finished high-performance Tiny Whoop. I love how the red came out with the red motors and the white props and the white camera mount there. I think that's really beautiful. Should be pretty easy to find when I crash it. I'm charging up some batteries right now, and we'll go take it for a spin in a few minutes and record the video from the goggles. So stay tuned for what's next.